This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is why the Nkuhuma Pride is such a firm favourite.
It's Kinky Tail.
He just looks ready for a fight.
This is still her territory.
The Avoca boys are here to stay.
How insane was that?
Good afternoon and welcome to the 34th episode of Safari Lives, where of course we are celebrating Hosanna's birthday. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Sebastian had the joy of being on camera for that particular moment. And this, of course, is the time of the week where we can discuss the goings-on of the various different animal characters. Now, remember that you can send through your questions in the normal way on hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Alternatively, you can do that on the YouTube chat stream. Question comments thing, and from there we of course are coming live from Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. We will be joined by the Mara as well. Now, what a week it has been for the characters of Djuma and of course the birthday boy.
As the end of the wet season looms, we were spoilt with sightings this week. Tundi made a rare appearance back on the western edge of her territory, while Hosanna wandered familiar pathways before taking himself off on an adventure to the north. The Mbali pack came bounding through before racing off to the south, and the hungry Nkuhumas prowled through Djuma, while Kuchava gorged herself to the southeast. Up in the Masai Mara, the Sausage Tree Pride have cemented themselves comfortably in the territory of the Oldono Pike males, and the Shepherd's Tree males surprised us all with a stunning Mara sunset.
So today, of course, is a celebration of all things Hosanna themed. Hopefully he decides to pop up out of the woodwork from wherever he's been hiding, because he really has been hiding. We haven't seen him in, I'm not sure, but he didn't make an appearance for his birthday, and we were all very disappointed. This is also the opportunity for you to share your favorite memory of Hosanna, because it's actually also not just about Hosanna, it's about his lovely sister as well, with whom, of course, he shared a birthday, given that, they're leopard cubs and therefore were born on the same day, and who, of course, has probably most likely departed. Now, we're going to be chatting a little bit about Hosanna's history, about Shongile's history, and of course their wonderful parents, the Queen, now deceased, of Djuma, as well as the Duke. So while you think of your absolute favorite memories of Hosanna's cubhood and young adulthood, off you go across to Lauren, who has found her first very large creature of the bush.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 34th episode of Safari Lives. So here we do have a rather large elephant in the distance, but first things first, my name is Lauren, and on camera I do have Davido. So it obviously is an episode for Hosanna himself, and I'm currently trying to think of my favourite moment with him. I have had many, but unfortunately on his birthday, not only did I sing and dance for him, he failed to show up, and he hasn't shown up since. So he's either hiding from us or he's feeling very sad that he has turned 3 years old. So we don't have Hosanna, but we do have this beautiful elephant off in the distance, just feeding slowly through quarantine, not very far from our camp, not very far from Jamie in the tent actually, and earlier was having a little scratch on the nearby marula tree. So this elephant is on its own, but there was a herd that crossed to the other side of us, so I am wondering if it will try and join up with the herd again. Now, it is a hot and sticky afternoon here, so I can imagine this elephant is feeling just as uncomfortable as I am right now in this sticky heat. There is no air or anything to breathe, so I'm sure this elephant will be heading at some point to a water hole. Now, don't forget to talk to us. It's important you do. So you can send in your comments and questions using the hashtag SafariLive. And try to keep it character focused this week. And of course, we are focusing on Hosanna. So there is someone else that wants to say hello. So for now, let's go across to Tristan.
Indeed, we do have to say hello on a very special Safari Lives as we celebrate all things Hosanna. Although Hosanna is in the bad books of note at the moment, he really is not in the good books with any of us currently, given his absence for his big 3rd birthday. But who knows, maybe today's the day that we end that drought and we find him somewhere around this area. My name's Tristan on camera. I'll eventually get it out. Eventually we'll have words that will be spoken and it will be English and you'll understand me, but it's BK this afternoon. So there's BK's thumb. Yes, I know, sorry about that. The words are not flowing very well. They haven't been the last week. I don't know what's wrong with me at the moment. I just can't speak. It's a problem. But anyway, let's try and clear that out there and get rid of all those stutters now. And so essentially what we're going to do is we're going to, while we want to find Hosanna, I'm going to adopt a project. We've been searching for him and we've been trying to find him all over the place. And so today I've decided I'm going to give him the cold shoulder like he's given us and hope that he then decides to come looking for us for a change. So I'm going to go drive areas that I don't think he'll be in the hope that maybe he just shows up. Do you think the reverse psychology will work? I'm not sure, but we're going to give it a bash anyway, and so hopefully we'll get lucky. Now, parts of me, there's a whole range of emotions that goes on when it comes to Hosanna and his absence this week, which I'll get into during the course of this afternoon's drive, because I have a few different kind of theories and things that I want to discuss and talk about, but we'll get into those a little bit later. In the meantime, though, rather than me waffling on about all kinds of things, let's send you across to Kenya so that David can say hello and give you all a very, very good afternoon view of Kenya.
Triangle, and hopefully Hosanna is going to appear somewhere in the show today, because the other day we were celebrating his birthday, and I'm not sure that particular day he was in, but it's very good to tell Hosanna a very happy belated birthday. Well, my name is David, and we're in the Mara Triangle, and with me today is Bungei on camera, and we are starting our drive with some very lazy water bucks. And I'm saying they're lazy because it is a rather very hot afternoon. I'm not sure I can remember the very first time we went about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm trying to walk back the last few months, and today for the first time we have reached the mark of 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 32 degrees Celsius, and for me and these water bags it is very, very hot. Bungei, do you agree? Bungei says a very big yes, and the first water bag here are just shaking their head and just laying there, not doing much, waiting until it cools off, which worries me, because you'd imagine they would be looking for some shade somewhere because it's rather hot today. But my guess is their fluffy fur is helping maybe to caution them, but also taking the shade in the thicket also puts them in a bit of a tricky situation should a predator like a hyena or a lion decide to come for them. Clearly, there you can see the very sexual dimorphic of these antelopes, males from females, and you can see the huge males there chewing cud with the big horns, and the girls having no horns. One very big advantage of ruminants, when they eat enough and it's rather hot, they just take a rest and regurgitate what they had eaten earlier and just keep chewing it. They are not very far from the Mara River, which is one area I'm thinking of browsing today. And as the name suggests, the first waterbuck, that's why we call them waterbucks, because they're always near any kind of water, be it a river, a lake, or any kind of swamp. Well, because these waterbucks are rather lazy there because of the heat of the day, I'll move on and look for more active animals. But in the meantime, I'll send you across back to South Africa to Jamie, who wants to talk about the belated boy who had birthday the other day, Hosanna.
The birthday boy, well, there's lots to say about the birthday boy, and we're going to be watching some clips, and you can watch them with us. How does that sound? Does that sound good? Yeah, that sounds good. It sounds good. Little Hosanna agrees that this, Hosanna wannabe agrees that this is what he would like to do. So we're going to pop him there and we're going to start at the very beginning. He's going to look after the party streamer for us. We're going to start at the very beginning and the absolute basics of Hosanna. For those that perhaps have only discovered these live safaris in the last few months, the last year, the last 2 years, we're going to go back in time all the way to when Hosanna and his sister were 6 months old. We've done a lot of them when they were tiny fluff balls, but we're going to go all the way back and we're going to start off with our first sort of blast from the past, and we'll go back to a sighting where we had not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 leopards all gathered together. So here we go. We're going to... Oh, sorry, I headbutted the camera. Okay, now here we go. Now we're going to have a look. So there we go. The 1st of August 2016, there is the father of this little munchkin. His name is Tingana, and he is still, at present, the Duke of Djuma, and there you go. Hosanna and his little sister Shongile. And I say little sister, they were obviously born at the same time, but at this point, around about 6 months old, we were starting to see the difference in size. So Karula was all the way up on the bank. I can't remember if Tingana stole this kill from her, but I have a feeling that it is a distinct possibility that he moved in and stole the Queen's kill. If not, then I'm very sorry. There you go. The royal family. He did, apparently. Look at that gorgeous little creature. Oh, how I miss leopard cubs. So Hosanna and Shongile had a close relationship in the way that leopard cubs always do. There's something very special about their interaction in those first few months. And, you know, getting to really get to grips with their relationship with each other. And I always found it slightly melancholy knowing that they were going to be separated from each other at some point. Of course, like all little leopard cubs, they had a fascination with their father. And we've seen this body language before. We've seen it in Hlalamba, when she has approached Tingana in the past. Now, Karula, as far as we know, this was her first and only litter with Tingana. So I think it's the only one. Oh, look how gorgeous she was. Look at those eyes. Slinking away, you can see the nervous body language of a leopard cub who's not quite certain what was going on. There weren't that many encounters between Hosanna, Shongile and Tingana way back in the beginning. Oh, and when in doubt, choose something else, because of course Tingana had stolen their lunch. And there's the Queen herself, moving the cubs away from their dad, knowing that her kill was long gone, settling down in a patch of shade. Oh, they were absolutely gorgeous. I'm really sorry, I got distracted. There's a baby bushbuck outside the tent, and is absolutely gorgeous with Mum. Oh, hello. Aren't you just too precious? Well done, girl. Hang on. It's not a baby bushbuck. I'm talking absolute nonsense. There's an Inyala, and there is a tiny, tiny young bushbuck. It's not actually as much of a baby as I thought it was. I was totally not concentrating. It is a tiny bushbuck. It is not a baby Nyala. But it is a very small one. It is a young bushbuck. So there you go. You've actually got a really nice example of 2 different species of spiral-horned antelope, both of which, of course, would be a welcome meal for young Hosanna if he were to come back. Now imagine how wonderful it would be if Hosanna decided to return for his birthday party. I mean, I know it's 2 days late. He was born on the 2nd of February, but you know, how wonderful would it be if he made an appearance to his own birthday party here at the tent? We know he loves it around here. I think it would be truly special indeed. Be even more special if Shongile did, but unfortunately, possibly not. My music said favorite memory of Hosanna, and that would be impossible because they are all your favorite. Now that's just not trying, because you could definitely pick out some sightings that are really truly spectacular. I mean, there've been times when we've seen Hosanna and he's been asleep for 3 hours in a bush, and you've just seen a patch of spots. So I'm not 100% convinced that we can't at least create a list of top sightings. Maybe we can't have an exact favorite one, but we can definitely filter out some of the less exciting ones. My favorite sighting of Hosanna is always a toss-up. I've had some truly spectacular ones on foot, but I'm not going to tell you which one it is. I think some of you know, but I'm not going to tell you which one it is now. I'm going to send you across to Lauren, who's managed to catch up with her elephant friend.
So we did actually move a little bit, and we found the other herd that was on the other side of us. Now, they've all kind of gone a little bit deeper into the vegetation at the moment, but they're all feeding. So it's a big herd here that are just making their way through the thickets and just feeding on whatever they can find. A little bit difficult to see, but you can see the tail there just swooshing through the thickets. Now, I'm still pondering about my favourite memory with Hosanna as we move. Oh, one of my first memories with him was the most difficult one, which was my first live drive where he happened to have a baby impala that was not so easy for me to narrate. It was a little bit tricky. We're just going to keep going forward. But I wouldn't say that was my favourite one. Just going to try and get these elephants for you again. Let's see. Is this okay? There we go. So my favourite memory is probably what one time we found Hosanna in the Moati River, and he was sleeping, of course, doing what Hosanna does best, and he decided to have a good clean and a good groom and a good scratch and lick, and he ended up getting himself in all sorts of awkward yoga positions, and it was just absolutely adorable. So that was probably my favourite Hosanna memory to date, and luckily I've been privileged enough to spend a lot of time with this cat and have many memories. However, he seemed to have evaded us all at the minute, and I think Tristan is very upset. I think he's hurt Tristan's feelings quite badly, so let's hope he does make an appearance somewhat today. I believe last week tomorrow, so almost 7 days, was actually the last time he was seen, and it was with myself and David, believe it or not. So he was still on Juma, and he was bouncing around like the playful cat he is, and he disappeared into the thicket, and we lost him, and that was actually the last time he was sighted. So hopefully, since we are dedicating a whole Safari Lives to him, that he will actually make an appearance today. Just watching these elephants is actually making me feel a little bit cooler at the minute, actually. They're actually heading further away from us. We are going to leave them soon and go in search of whatever else we can find. But for now, let's go up to David and see exactly what he has for you.
Well, Lauren, very good luck. And you're going to give me my Monday afternoon if I hear the news of Hosanna. And just like we saw the waterbucks earlier that were getting very irritated by flies, these different antelopes here that we call the toppies are also very equally irritated by flies. And you can see that by the behavior or the flicking of their ears. And I'm sure they have gotten very uncomfortable in that particular area they were in. And most of them are rising up and leaving this area. And I think most of these flies are in the grass there. Now, we call these toppies, and toppies are very similar to a different type of antelope in South Africa that we call the sesame. Apart from the colors, everything else could be basically the same in terms of size and in terms of behavior, gestation period, and all of them also being herbivores. But there's something very unique about these toppies in the sense that when they give birth after gestation period of about 7.5 months to 8 months, their young ones look very different from their mothers. And sorry, Bunge, if you just turn to the left, if I may ambush you, there's one that is just not suckling there. Sorry to ambush you very quickly, but so nice to see a youngster of an animal just suckling, and see how happy she is, flicking her tail left and right. How amazing is this? Rosaline, I guess your question is how many toppies are in the Mara. Now, I do not know whether anybody has been able to give that count. Unlike the lions that we have an idea, leopards, cheetahs, averagely, that have been able to have a count and a rough idea of how many hyenas we got. Nobody, Rosaline, has given us some very good documentation of how many toppies we got in the Mara. Maybe you might get researchers who will be counting and give us more data on this, I would say, very beautiful antelopes that we call the toppies. Now, lions, Rosaline, we usually know roughly how many prides we got. Like here in the Mara Triangle, we got about 11 prides. And there's one particular pride that I love that is called the sausage tree pride. And if you see that pride now, because they got young calves, it's always wonderful to see this pride with your calves. It's always a treat to see the beautiful sausage tree calves. The calves are beginning to roam the green Mara savanna. For now, they'll only feed on their mother's milk. Just like other predator cubs, the life of a lion cub is all about food and play. More than just a fun way of passing time, play will help the sausage tree cubs develop their body muscles as well as strengthen the bond among them. Isn't it wonderful to have seen such bundles of joy of those cubs just jumping around and moving around very close to their mother? Well, as I was saying before, in the Mara Triangle, we got so many prides of lions, and that one particular one that I call, or we call the sausage tree pride, it's my favorite for so many reasons. But currently now, they got those small little tiny calves that we enjoy every day when we see them. Now, there's one female in that particular pride that we think also gave birth the other day, that is called the kingtail, which is the grandmother of all those other calves there. We have not been able to see the cubs of that particular female, and personally, I cannot wait to see them. We have watched her from when she was mating with a particular male called Kipuli, and then she went mating with another male of the Ondonyo Pike coalition, and we got a feeling that, she has 2, 3, or 4 cubs. Nobody knows. Linda, great comment. And how special is this? Linda, I only request you keep following us every morning and every afternoon when we are out in the Mara Triangle until we are able to get those cubs of Kingtail out, because personally, I cannot wait. Last week, I was out on a game drive in the morning, and I think I was able to identify where she dropped her cubs, and I can tell that is her den, because before I left that area, I could hear the cubs from a distance, either calling, but she did not bring them out. And I think she, feels they're still pretty young for them to be out in the wild. But it'll just be a matter of time, before Kingtail brings her cubs and maybe introduces them to the main pride. Well, could be tomorrow, could be the day after. In the meantime, we still got toppies here, which are just moving because of the heat of the day. If that's cooling off, we'll start seeing them being a little bit more active. Well, I'll move on, and I do not know what could be lying ahead, but I'm trying to imagine Lauren is trying to get a spotted predator.
Well, I am searching for everything and anything. We're going to go from water source to water source very slowly today and see exactly what we can find. I did just get an update. There are some lions are actually in Buffelshoek, so we're not able to traverse there, but at least we got the location of where they are. I believe it could be some of the Nkuhuma Pride. Now, last week was a fantastic week for the Nkuhumas. We actually managed to spend a lot of time with them. They sort of set up camp, if you like, in Juma, and they stayed for a while, and I think many of us here got a chance to see them. But there was one event when one of them managed to get separated, so let's go and take a look and see exactly what happened.
Nana, one of the oldest lionesses of the Nkuhuma Pride, finally had her calls returned and was reunited with the Pride once more. However, she did not seem too impressed with the rest of her family's full bellies, having just finished a feast in her absence. With bonds reaffirmed and digestion well underway, Nana took to searching for a snack with a few other supportive members of the Pride. Rest assured that the Pride would not be moving anytime soon.
Wasn't that just a lovely moment? It is quite common for us to see lionesses get separated from the Pride. I actually saw it twice last week. We're just having a little look at the water hole here. And it is, they become very stressed and very agitated when they cannot find the members of the Pride. And of course, Nana, the oldest female, is obviously suffering from a quite severely injured hip, which might make her slower than the others. So who knows, we might bump into the lions today. Let's just wait and see. But for now, I believe Tristan may have something very exciting to show you.
Well, isn't that a sight for sore eyes? Hello, little Tlalamba. Now, it's not Hosanna, but, well, I suppose it is his half-sister, and it's nice to kind of, well, half-sister? Is it half-sister? I suppose, yes, it is, because we think same father. Obviously, those things can always be debatable. But anyway, nice to see her once again, still sitting at Quarry Pan, where she's been the last 3 days, waiting for Mom to come back, which is always quite nice to see her. And she very conveniently came trotting down a little termite mound close by and came out in front of us to have a nice drink, as Lauren said earlier. It's very, very warm today. And so I'd imagine our little girl is hot and bothered. And so she's had a nice long drink, which is going to be good for her. I'm going to just cool her down a little bit, I would imagine, and then we'll probably find her going and flopping down in the shade. She really is a funny little cat, but a beautiful one, and she's slowly but surely starting to grow a little bit, and starting to look more and more of a sort of adult leopard-like and less cub-like. She's still obviously got a long way to go, busy sniffing around and going to lie in the cool mud. Yes, I would think that that's probably the best place to be able to lie. It is definitely a hot day, and the mud itself will be definitely much cooler to the touch. Moisture, as it evaporates, causes cooling, as we know. That's why panting works. Are you calling? Almost looks like she was calling for a second there. There, you see, she's calling. I wonder if Tandi's also here. Let's see. She's kind of looking around, calling. Or are you just hoping that it's your mom because there's some squirrel's alarm calling? Or are you just talking to us? I think you're just talking to us. Or maybe she has the hiccups from drinking too fast. That could be the case. But there are some rattling cisticolas and some squirrels that were alarm calling a little bit further kind of into the block. And it could be very well that there is another leopard around, and that's why she's kind of staring in that area and making a little bit of a call. I mean, it's difficult. Not much of a sound came out. It could have been little hiccups that maybe she had. Now, one of the Niconico viewers is asking if she's waiting for her mother. Yes, she is. So the last time that we had tracks for the two of them together was here, and we had both Thandi and her tracks drinking from this pan. They then separated, and Thandi we found that same night when they separated down on Torchwood, where she was chased off a hill by Tingana, and since then hasn't come back towards Tlalamba yet. Whether or not this is the slow start of her leaving Tlalamba for longer and longer periods, anyone's kind of guess at this stage. It's about the right time. She left obviously Tamba a little bit earlier than she's leaving Tlalamba, but Tlalamba is hoping that maybe Mom is going to be coming back, because I can promise you that she's going to be starting to get quite hungry. And so even though she was well fed 2-3 days ago, she's now starting to get a little bit hungry, and that means that she's going to be hoping and wishing that Mom comes back, because that's going to allow her to get, hopefully, a fairly decent meal and fill that little tummy up. But she's such a funny cat, because cats don't normally like water, but if you look at the tip of her tail, you'll notice every now and then it flops into the water, and she obviously doesn't like it that much, and so she keeps curling her tip, and then she forgets about it, and the little tip falls into the water. Look, there we go. Why are you putting your tip of your tail in the water, you silly cat? You're ruining your fluffy little tail. You're making it all matted. Maybe it feels nice. Maybe it's like dipping her toes in. It just feels comfortable to have a little wet to the tail. Now, I believe a lot of you are very excited that she's still around, and she is an incredibly cool cat, and she's really coming out of her kind of shell and become a lot more playful in some respects in the last. I mean, she always was a playful cub, but with Thandi only tolerated so much playing before she would kind of walk and move, and that would mean little Tlalamba would have to kind of keep up. She never had the opportunity to play nearly as much as what Hosana did when he had Shongile around, because she hasn't had a little litter mate. And so now that she's on her own, and particularly when she's waiting for Thandi in a place like this, she gets super bored, and then she runs up and down and chases things and bites things and does all kinds of funny things and gives herself quite amused by it all. And so it's been so nice over the last few days from what I hear. I mean, obviously I haven't seen much of her at all. In fact, I haven't seen her for over 2 weeks. And that means that, the other guys have had a lot more kind of sightings, but everybody has said that she's been super playful. Paula, what is the largest kill that she's brought down? Well, we don't really know, to be honest with you. We obviously have found her in the presence of a fully grown pregnant female impala, which she lost to a hyena, but we're not sure if she managed to bring that down herself. What I will say is that she was in that area for a few days. We then kind of left her in the morning, and in the afternoon she had this impala kill. It could have been very well that impala died naturally, and she found it, or maybe she did bring it down. At her age, theoretically, she should be starting to hunt things like that. I mean, even little baby impalas would probably be more on her sort of scale. But we don't know. We have never actually seen her physically kill something properly of any sort of decent size. So, birds, no doubt she's killed. I'm pretty sure she's killed quite a few mongoose. The rest of them, we don't really have an idea, and we haven't had any sort of live kills of hers or seen her on a carcass with bite marks on the neck and just her around. Most of it is because Thandi is still providing so nicely for her at this stage. So we don't really know, but I would imagine by this age that she should have. Oh, it was a tough afternoon, my girl. She is pretty though, isn't she? Is the mud nice and cool on your face? You're just like your brother, your half-brother, you know that. He too likes mud all over his face and makes him cool down a little bit. But you'll need to have a word with your brother and your half-brother to tell him he needs to start coming out now. Anyway, talking about half-brother, Jamie is still discussing all things Hosana. So without further ado, let's go across to her.
I completely agree with Tristan in that Tlalamba shares many traits in common with both Hosana and, of course, Shongile. Do you want to hear some really good news? The party decorations arrived. They were a little late, So it wasn't that we didn't plan on going all out for Hosana's birthday. It just so happens that the decorations took some time. But they're here now, and the party is in full swing. We've been eating chocolate cake. Oh, I wish we had chocolate cake. That's what we should have got, Seb. We should have got chocolate cake for the birthday party celebration. The streamers admittedly were a rushed job. Seb's done an amazing job with the front part of the tent. I feel like at some point I'm going to absolutely rip the streamers out of the ceiling. But, you know, now we've done it. We've managed to look the part. And I got a hat, because I was quite sad that I didn't have a happy birthday hat. So that's good news. So there you have it. Right, onwards with the relationship of Hosana with his sister and, of course, his beloved mother, Karula. This is a stunning little sighting, one of those beautiful moments that we so often shared with the pair of them. And it involves, of course, the Queen Karula as well. There we go. My favourite thing about both Hosana and his sister was that face they pulled, that Shongile was pulling there on top of that rock. The way her ears drooped right down, or pulled right down to the side of her head. Oh, hissy Karula, irritated as her cubs get older. They're most definitely a handful. And the two of them played together on and on, absolutely endlessly. But Hosana has that exact same facial expression where he tilts his ears right down to the side. And I've seen that so many times on walk. Oh, I miss these moments so much. The moments that we spent with the Queen, even if she did get a little bit irritable as the cubs got older and actually hurt her. I remember at one point Hosana, as he overtook Karula, used to knock her over. It was ridiculous. But like all young leopards, they had a lot of skill developing to do. And although they might have been relatively close as siblings, that didn't mean that they ever stopped at the opportunity to cause absolute chaos. And to dislodge each other from a tree. Vicky said that this is her favourite moment, where she fell out of the tree. I remember Karula reaching up and grabbing her as well. It's all part and parcel of this whole thing known as growing up. It's something that Hosana hasn't quite fully mastered yet. We really did have the most amazing time with Karula and those cubs. There she is, the Queen herself, giving us a little wink. That could almost be Tlalamba when you look at it in that size. Little tail twitching away. Face not quite as long. Mom. Growing independence and then... Oh, mongoose! I remember watching Hosana make his first kill, or what I felt was his first kill. I can't believe what an incredible experience we've had watching these cubs grow up. It's truly very, very special. They were absolutely gorgeous when they were that age, and particularly around the beginning of 2017, I think, is where some of my favourite memories come from. We would go out every single day and they'd be gathered around the wallows, or around the little pans on Shabam Road towards Treehouse and then all the way into the Mwati. And I mentioned that I think I watched Hosana make his first kill. It was probably not his first kill, but it was certainly, I think, the biggest thing that we'd ever seen him tackle when Karula caught an Inyala. So she did the hard work for him, but Karula caught an Inyala, and Hosana actually came in and grabbed it away from her. At which point I thought we were going to be subjected to a long and quite painful process as he managed to adjust his grip to suffocate the Inyala. So I was preparing everyone for quite an unpleasant almost sighting, because it can be quite unpleasant when young predators learn to hunt. Not so Hosana. He took that Nyala and he killed it in about 2 seconds. He pulled it up against the bank and its neck snapped. Whether it was skill or luck, I do not know, but it was a far more merciful death than I was expecting. And clearly Hosana does have a degree of skill when it comes to hunting. He managed to survive from a very, very young age. As most of you know, his mother disappeared around, we sort of confirmed it around April of 2017. So he was only really 15 months, wait, how old was that? 14 months old. And so was Shongile. But Hosana had a massive advantage for two different reasons. One was his sheer size, and two, of course, was the fact that there were no other strange male leopards wandering around the area. I have many favorite memories of Hosana, but I could definitely choose some of them. And moments like this, when he was playing with his sister and with his mother, I remember them walking along the road, jumping on each other. Those are the sightings that really stand out. Now, Monique, that's awesome. Monique says that her favorite Hosana moment is learning that she and Hosana share a birthday. So happy birthday for the second, Monique. I don't know whether or not you were watching on your birthday, that proud moment 3 years ago when Hosana's little fuzzball head was very briefly seen and Brent went into paroxysms of sheer excitement. But a very happy birthday to you. I'm glad that you share your birthday with our very special boy. I don't know where he is. I miss him terribly. He hasn't even been gone that long, and we're suffering from withdrawal. So, while we contemplate the mystery of Hosana's whereabouts, Lauren hasn't had much luck finding cats yet, but she has found something with splodges.
Well, we've gone from one extremely large mammal to another extremely large mammal who's been stationary for approximately about 10 minutes now, giving us the perfect view of him. Now, it is a large male giraffe, a big bull, and I believe he's enjoying the services of some oxpeckers at the moment. It seems to be rather relaxing for him. And I did just witness the red-billed oxpeckers actually pecking away right on the eyelid, which cannot be pleasant whatsoever. There is one on its back this now, and they're obviously just plucking out all the parasites and ticks and all sorts of lovely things that are embedded in the giraffe's skin. But from what I can see right now, the skin actually looks in very good condition. So our animal is very stationary at the minute, but I believe Tristan's one is on the move.
Well, indeed, as you can see, little Kalamba is up and is looking around, and that's because two laughing doves came walking past her, and she thought she would be able to stalk them. And in fact, the two little laughing doves, or three now, have landed on the other side of the water. So you can see she's looking at them at the moment, but she's got no chance. I mean, she's in no sort of cover whatsoever, and I doubt that there is going to be any chance of her getting this right. But what she's trying to do, essentially, as you can see, she's kind of sitting there watching where the doves are and hoping that they walk along the edge of this wall closer to where she is. Unfortunately, though, doves are a lot smarter. Look, here she goes. So she's going to try to stalk to them. The doves themselves are going to run away. It's the dove that's on the backside of the dam wall that she's trying to get to. So if you just come out a little bit, there you saw one flew past her, and then the other one is just on the edge of the dam wall there. There's two of them. So she's busy trying to get to them, but her little white tail is going to give her up. And look at that face, how she's watching them. She's such a clown, this cat. Michael, that is not, I'm afraid, going to work. You need a little bit of cover for this. Maybe not, she says. She's going to strike eventually. Now, what she's, I suppose, hoping for is one of these doves to make a mistake and walk right into her. So, Shannon, no, not as far as I know. I've never seen the two of them interact without Tundi around. Maybe it has happened. Under the cover of darkness, or in somewhere where we just, haven't noticed. But they would be clowns together, maybe. Especially if Hosana was a little bit younger. I imagine the two of them would have had lots of fun playing together. But now, I don't think so. I think Hosana is a little bit getting too serious for her. He probably wouldn't be that fond of seeing... I don't know, actually. I mean, Hosana is generally quite a sociable cat. It was during the winter. So who knows? Maybe he would play around. But I think Kalamba would also be a bit scared of Hosana. I don't think she would want to get too close, especially without Tundi there. I think she would be a little on the nervous side of kind of going anywhere near him and trying to get too close. But they would be a fair pair in terms of being a little bit clownish. Right, now you can see she's sitting, she's waiting. The doves are too far away. She's not going to get this right unless they come closer. And while she's waiting here, she's been obviously waiting for Mom. And it seems like Mom has had a rough week of her own last week.
Tandi waded through a sea of feathered chloris, making her way back to her above-ground pantry. As the queen negotiated the branches, she seemed to be taking extra care and consideration with each step, as she ascended to an ideal sunset viewing spot. It then became clear that her cautious climb was due to an injury on her left side. While we're unsure as to what caused it, it appeared that Tandi was set to take some well-deserved time to rest and recuperate.
Well, shame, poor Tandi. She's been in the wars a little bit, and I have an idea where that wound might have come from. The one day we were on Chitwa, and I was saying that we had tracks everywhere, and there was female leopards walking side by side, and I wonder if she didn't have another little altercation with Sibui. It's very possible that that could have happened. It was just after they finished that Impala kill on Gowrie Main, where she was with those... Tingana and that other male. Lauren had that sighting of 4 leopards in the same place, and so it was just, what are you doing, girl? Have you decided, no, the doves are too far away? Do they not want to play with you? She's a funny character. Very cute, though. It might not be, a cat that we've seen all that much as a cub in comparison to Hosana, but she's still very cute and still very playful. And it's so nice when you get to catch her like this by herself, because, the boredom must be real. After spending 3 days sitting at this pan, anything that moves, I suppose, is fair game and fun. And so I'm not surprised that she's going after things like laughing doves and pretending to kind of have a game with them. I suppose she just wants Mom to come back and take her somewhere else. The good thing, though, is that her tummy is not exactly empty. She seems as though she's got a little bit of a sort of tummy there, which is good news. So she's not exactly kind of desperate for food at this stage and is in dire condition. Seems to be doing just fine while she waits for Mom to come back. Anyway, we'll sit with her and carry on watching her antics. In the meantime, though, back up to David in the Masai Mara and see how he's getting on.
Absolutely, Tristan, because we have always said in Africa, water is life, and anytime you are near any water body, the chances you might see something, chances of not seeing anything are always very slim, and that's why we have this crocodile that is still trying to justify the heat of the day, and you see where he is, and not very far from her, there is a hippopotamus. That amphibian there is also saying it's hot, and she's blending in with those rocks there. And you can tell the levels of water when it's raining, how high it gets. If you look at those rocks there, you can see the water levels have gone drastically low. And this is the Mara River. I'm sure all of you know the Mara River, very famous when it comes to the migration, or when the wildebeest will be crossing from one side of the river to this other side. And here, M in the final control says both the hippopotamus and the crocodile, they just blend in very well. And then, of course, they look like rocks. Now, you notice the water levels have gone very low. Lily, I thank you very much. You agree with me that you thought that was a rock, but actually it's not a rock. It's a crocodile, and that one is on the move now. And that one is a little smallish, and maybe by going down that way, she splashes herself, some water to cool off. And I believe she could not be floating. She could be maybe just slowly walking through the water, because that water level is quite low. And the levels will definitely rise come the month of June, July, or maybe May, or towards the end of April, when we shall start getting the long rains. So this is the Mara River. It could be about, almost 200 miles long from where it starts. And it starts somewhere in an area called the Mau Escarpment in Kenya. And it comes through the Masai Mara Game Reserve and it goes through the Serengeti National Park, and it drains in Lake Victoria. Remember, our drive is always very interactive, so should you have any comments like Lily, please send them through. Should you have any questions also, as usual, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Now, Catherine, you see that croc? They're very close to each other. Now, two things here. Both of them got very different feeding habits. The croc is a carnivore, and the hippo is a herbivore. Well, croc being a carnivore, definitely that hippo would be too big for her. My guess is they are only 3-4 meters apart, and they know they have a commonality. They respect each other, but I'll tell you what, once in a while, we have seen crocodiles going for baby hippos. But in general, they usually have no conflict. Look at the massive or the size of that hippopotamus there. She is huge. She is huge. And the croc knows, she is not going to waste her time trying to get this huge hippo who is having a snooze. And as you said earlier, very good, Bungay. Look at how sleepy she is. And if you look carefully, the nose is just slightly above the water level because, hello, good afternoon. And she is blinking, opening her eyes. She gave me a wink, and she thought she is very comfortable with me. So what I was saying earlier, she has made sure the nose levels are just above the water so that she can continue breathing without having issues as she has an nap. I just want to stay here and drive a little bit along the river and see whether I could see more crocs maybe outside the water or more hippos. But at times also we'll always see, lions trying to chase or waiting for animals that would come to drink water. But in the meantime, we'll take you back to South Africa to Jamie Patterson.
It is just party central in the tent this afternoon. Seb and I have been blowing party streamers. We've been playing music. We've not been doing any of those things, but we've been celebrating in spirit with our beloved Hosanna. And certainly if he makes an appearance today, we'll have to play some sort of song. Look, have you seen? He's even got his little name on a bandana. I think that's gorgeous. Absolutely too precious. I think we're going to have to get a Shongile one as well. Definitely we are. Do you agree? Yes. So, we've been talking a little bit about Hosanna growing up and the fact that he was hunting for himself. It was something that Shongile was doing as well, and the two of them was spending more and more time away from Karula. Now, this next particular flash down memory lane, I remember vividly, and you've been looking at a crocodile with David in the Mara. This particular time, a crocodile moved from Chitwa Dam into Twin Dams, I believe. And it was a very important life lesson for both Hosanna and his sister as they spent more and more time around the water's edge. So let's have a look at it. It was just before Karula's disappearance and their independence as well. There we go. There we go, the Twin Dams area. They spent a lot of time there, moving about through the dense vegetation, and we were still absolutely loving each and every single moment. I know that Brent especially was particularly attached to this pair of leopards. And we're using all of the erosion patches, spending a lot of time away from Karula and learning, as it happened, crucial skills for the future. First of all, don't walk in the muddy water, especially when there's a crocodile there. And secondly, just how edible and slow these creatures are. Now, as it turns out, when we move a little bit further into the future, this life lesson was essential. And interestingly enough, one that they were sharing. Oh, this poor terrapin. Wait for it, wait for it. Over it goes. Poor thing, being tormented. Look at the size of those paws. A little hint as to just how much bigger he was going to get. And what a terror of terrapins he was truly going to be. Now, it was a life lesson that they were sharing with Vitomi at the time. So, when Karula disappeared, and she disappeared, we think about a month after that, but we sort of confirmed it around about 2 months after that. Both Shongile and Hosanna survived by catching and hunting terrapins and tortoises. Not a particularly pleasant meal for them, and one that they had to work very hard to actually get anything out of. But that was what they were largely subsisting on. That was what they were living off. And it was a terribly concerning time. Shongile in particular got very, very thin at one point. And I remember watching her moving from Treehouse Dam to Twin Dams to the Mulwati and back over and over and over, searching for her mum. Hosanna responded almost completely differently. Sometimes he'd bump into his sister and he'd sort of go, "Oh, hello, I know you," and spend a little bit of time with her. But mostly he was relatively relaxed about the whole situation, certainly to our mind. He took it in his stride, and he's always been a little bit like that. His carefree attitude has made him one of the most entertaining characters of all time for us to watch. And I mean characters in the broadest possible sense of the word. He truly is a character. And speaking of little characters, off you go across to the little princess herself.
Indeed. It's just as entertaining as Hosanna sometimes, although I suppose Hosanna's entertained us for longer, and that's why I suppose he's so kind of ingrained, and also his connection to Karula. I suppose the Tlalamba is also connected to Karula. It's all part of the same lineage, and it's amazing actually how most of that lineage has appeared this week, you know, in the form of obviously Tlalamba, we've had Tingana, we've had Tandi, Kuchava has also been around a little bit, so there's been lots happening. Funny enough, actually, last night we were on Chitwa airstrip and we heard leopard calling, and then the guys that were in the area, they went onto a net, which is just south of the Chitwa airstrip, and they found Kuchava, and she was actually around, but she was busy calling for cubs. So it seems like the cubs are inside a net side, so she was making lots of contact calls, and they left it because it was starting just to get dark at around 7 o'clock or 7:15. So it's good news to know that she is still calling for cubs. I mean, I hope that she's not calling because she can't find them. I hope it's more that she was just going to where the den is. The area that she was in is a very difficult drainage line that's very, very thick, and you won't get a car in there even if you wanted to. And so I wonder if maybe that's why she's been keeping them in there, is just to try and keep them safe during that period, which is good news though, either way, that she is around, and hopefully still has cubs. Tom, do I think Tlalamba's hanging around water for prey? I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. I think more the fact is that Tandi left her here knowing that this is a safe place. You must remember that this is an area that little Tlalamba has been left many times before. We've tracked her from Goripan quite often. The fact that there is water is good, because Tlalamba needs water every day. If she's not feeding off a kill, she's going to need to get water, especially in hot conditions like we've got now. And so she needs to make her way towards water. So just convenient, I suppose, to be left very close to water. And the flip side of that is that there are going to be animals that are going to come down to drink, which she can then potentially try and stalk and try and kind of be able to catch. But I don't think it's the sole reason she's been here. It's not like Hosanna during the sort of dry periods of the winter, when he was here predominantly because he wanted to try and hunt the things that were coming down to the pan every night. And remember that she's not been independent like Hosanna has, and therefore for her life is a little bit different. She knows that if she's patient enough, not so much that at the waterhole, but that Tandi will eventually come back, and that means food in some sort of way if Tandi comes back to fetch her. So you'll find with her that's why she's here. She was left here. There's water. There's no need for her to go too far. Ultimately, Mom is going to want to come and fetch her at some point, and so we'll come and get her. Laura, you can never know for sure. I think so. I mean, I don't know for sure. Tandi can be funny with her cubs. She can sometimes just leave them, in which case you'll find that she'll spend a long time kind of on her own and probably be quite localized to this pan area, and then she'll start, as she gets hungry, she'll start to move and start to try and find food. You might find that she'll actually look for Tandi a little bit and might hear Tandi calling and will go and try and find her, and there's this kind of separation period where they get a little bit kind of grumpy with each other. Well, Tandy gets grumpy with her. But I mean, I don't know. It's one of those situations where it could come back. She might not. Only time will tell. But we must prepare for those days where Tandy will start to leave her on her own fairly soon. Like I say, Columba's getting on now. She's now going on to debatably sort of 15, 16 months, or 15 probably is about more accurate than anything else. And so time is starting to go. You know, we generally say that leopards will be left between sort of 14 months and 2 years. So, you know, she's kind of getting on in a little bit now, especially for Tandy's cubs, because she tends to leave them a little bit earlier. So we'll just see how it goes. I think it depends. I mean, I hope that she's going to come back, but let's see. Anyway, in the meantime, though, we'll sit with this beautiful little cat while she gives us the beady eye. And while we do that, we're going to send you all the way up to Kenya's Masai Mara with David Gitamba Gitu.
Remember last year when I was in Juma in South Africa and I would see Talamba with her mother Tandy once in a while. There are two particular occasions I saw her on her own, and I was a bit worried because she was still pretty young, and a teenager, you know, when teenagers want to start showing their parents they're independent, they can do things on their own, well, they would behave that way, snake. But after a few weeks, you know, she was able to reunite with the mother, which was pretty good news. But I worried that was not the right age for, you know, her to disappear and not to be with the mother. My apologies. I'm sure at one point you lost me there. These are some of the challenges we get when we're here in Africa. Now, we are coming to another antelope, like what we had before, and this is a topi. Remember, earlier we saw a huge herd of topi. There's one that is walking on his own. So once in a while, we'll always get gremlins. But as much as they keep fighting us, we always fight back and we keep winning. Now, in the Mara, I have seen leopards that are a bit different than the leopards in Juma. Not different in terms of species of behavior, but different in the sense of what they hunt. Now, around here, not very far from where we are, there's a particular male leopard that has been known to hunt big prey, including the topi that we're seeing here. The shepherd tree male leopard graced our screens for a second time this year. Confidently, this male roved and marked his territory, which borders the Olololo escarpment and the Mara-Serengeti border. At the beginning of this year, the shepherd tree male leopard was mating with unknown female. If she conceived, we hope its offsprings will be born in the next coming months. Excellent. That was in the morning, and I was full of joy that day. It was quite unusual, you know, to see that particular leopard because we see him rarely and once in a while. And I would say this is the third time I have seen him in as many months, which is pretty exciting. Now, I said earlier, he is rather unusual because on a number of occasions, I have seen him bring down a topi like that. That topi, I would give it roughly about 300 pounds, you would imagine. And a fully grown male leopard like that is half that weight. And to bring down a prey that is double the weight of a leopard is super special. So that, shepherd tree male leopard, every time I see it, it reminds me of, I would say, Hukumuri in Juma, when I look at his head and the color of his eyes. Chris, you say it's a huge leopard, and I tell you, by any standard, that leopard is big. And I'm still very torn between Hukumuri and Tingana, who he really fits. The head and the eyes, to me, look like of Hukumuri, but in terms of size and the dewlap, I would want to believe he's more of Tingana. He's right there in between. Early this year, I saw him, mating with unknown female. And again, we cannot wait, hopefully, if that female conceived, because the territory of that particular female is not very far from where he was. And as much as we usually say, leopards, the males, have got territories, even the females do have, territories. And I cannot wait to see cubs. We have been... very good question, Rashni. And you'd like to know how old is the shepherd treatment? I'll tell you. No idea. Sorry, I cannot give you a very good answer because unlike in Juma, where we follow the leopards very well, here in the Mara Triangle or here in Kenya, it's not easy. It's been rather difficult to have an idea how old they are because one time we have them, one time we lose them. So this 1 year, I've seen him 3 times because I also apparently saw him last night. He was on top of a Taman Mount late in the evening and he was trying to hunt. I do not know when I'm going to see him next. If maybe not me, it could be Isaac, but we're just waiting to see. And what we want to do now is try and mark his territory and then see whether we can map out the areas, he remains. And once we are sure of his territory, we'll always be chancing and looking for him there. Because, male leopards are very territorial, and the moment they choose a particular area to be in, they'll always tend to remain there. Well, I need to move on. It's cooling off, which is pretty good news. And cooling off would mean maybe we could be lucky to see some cats. All right. Time to move on. Otherwise, the afternoon started very, very, very hot. 90 degrees Fahrenheit was pretty hot for us, which is the first time we have gotten to such very high number. Hopefully, the days to come, the temperatures are going to cool off. And maybe we go to mid-80s, which are more, I would say, comfortable. We got a Thompson gazelle here. And very unlikely you'll see leopards bringing down Thompson gazelles. This is the main food for the cheetah. Of course, cheetahs will also bring down different prey. But here in the Mara, we got the cheetahs going for the Thompson gazelle. So this one young male here, or rather one fully grown male, just guarding his territory as he keeps feeding and as usual, flicking their tail. Well, I was talking of some of the foods that leopards love to eat, but in South Africa, Lauren got a typical example of what Hukumuri loves.
Another prey item indeed, and one of such which it is quite small. It's one of the smaller prey items out here, but is indeed incredibly powerful. We do have 2 warthogs. Now, these animals just fascinate me. Although they've got quite sturdy, muscular bodies, they actually have incredibly small legs. But oh my, these legs can move them and they can run really fast, which is why we've sort of stationed ourselves a little bit further away so that we don't scare them, because once they run, there's no turning back. And you can actually see this one has most likely recently had babies. You can see her teats are out, and it is the season for warthog babies arriving, so it's very possibly that she has just given birth. Now, warthogs are always on edge, mostly due to the likes of Hosanna and Tingana and even Hukumuri, who do enjoy the occasional warthog feast. So let's see if we can try and get a little bit closer to them without scaring them, as they have moved off in the distance. Carla said she loves warthogs. Yes, so do I. They're so cute. And we were actually just talking about the babies earlier. They are tiny little mini versions of the adults, and they're so incredibly cute. I was hoping that they would have had some young with them, but it doesn't look like it. So let's just get up this bank and see if we can see where they have gone. Where did you go, warthogs? Oh, they're down here having a drink. Oh, there's babies. Oh, that's so cute. Yes, I was really hoping that there would be some young. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How incredibly gorgeous is that? Oh, that is exactly what I've been wanting to see. Tiny little wart piglets. Now, it can't be easy being a wart piglet, so They often stay very close to the mother and have to really, really be alert as well, because this is unfortunately the perfect snack item for many of the predators out here. And Hosanna himself was actually showing a wound. Yep, I'm saying bacon bits. Yes, indeed it is. Terrible comment. Let me just try and see if I can reposition. They don't normally let you get too close. Can you get them from here, or should we go forward? Okay. Okay, we're just going to get round here and try and see if we can see them better, because they're so adorable. Ah, here we go, here we go. Hello, little family. Okay. Okay, we got them. Look at that. That's horrible. Now, they are, I don't even know what size I could say they are. They're like a mini version of the adult that just skip along behind them. And what I was about to say there was Hosanna was actually displaying a wound. He had a quite painful looking wound, circular shape, and there was speculation that it could have actually came from a warthog's tusk. Now, although these animals tend to sort of flight rather than fight, if you do encounter one, they can cause serious injury with their very, very sharp tusks. The two sort of tusks on either side rub against each other, making sure that they're incredibly sharp, a lot sharper than you would think. So they are equipped with their own weaponry, their own form of self-defense, but they do tend to sort of flee rather than put up a fight. So these baby warthogs have got a lot to learn. Now, this could potentially, and again, this is just speculation, be the same family that I did see here the other day. But unfortunately, if it is the same family, there is less of them. So hopefully maybe it's a different family that we are looking at. And Carla says she loves how they hold their tails up. Isn't it so cute? It's very ladylike. I always think like it looks like they're walking on high heels when they sort of skip like that with their tails up. Now they're going back towards the dam. So they must be going for another drink. Oh, they're just so lovely. Yes, Emma agrees. It looks like they're ladies in high heels. I can no longer remember what it feels like to wear high heels, but I always think when I see a warthog, it does look like what they are looking. Let's see if I can just maybe get us a little bit closer. So while we try and get a little bit closer to our beautiful family, let's send you over to Jamie, who seems to be out and about of the tent.
There's one thing that we do know about Hosanna. It's that he knows exactly how to pose. He really does have an eye for detail, particularly during TV shows, where he finds himself the absolute best spot and lounges across it. I think that our toy Hosanna has been taking lessons from the shepherd's tree male and is trying to imitate the beauty of the Mara shot. Unfortunately, probably not possible, Hosanna.
We're sorry about that. No idea what happened, but we did appear to lose Jamie. But that's fine, because we are still with our lovely little family here. Now, the sun is blazing hot, let me tell you. I am rather jealous that they are around this waterhole, and I am not. However, we're getting a perfect view of them, so I am not complaining. It looks like Mummy may have laid down. She's obviously taking a rest. It cannot be easy being the mother of 5 little piglets, all running around with mountains of energy each day. And you can see they're all coming back down now for a drink. Now, they're very easily spooked, and they will indeed run as soon as they hear a sound. But we're trying to just be as quiet as possible here, and they all came back down to have a little drink. In the distance, there is also an impala having a drink. Look at that, all at ease with one another. Now, what you will notice out here when any sort of prey species, if you like, antelopes, warthogs, come near a waterhole, they get very nervous. They're not comfortable. And this will just be a sort of innate trained response. Waterholes do generally tend to mean predators. Crocodiles, leopards lurking in the corner, hyenas. So indeed, this is not the case right now, but anytime you do see an antelope or warthogs in this example, they are very, very nervous to come close to waterholes. You never know what could be lurking in there. Now, there is no crocodiles in twin dams, let me just clarify that. But of course, in dams like Chitwa, there is a very high possibility of bumping into a crocodile. Oh, this is exactly what we were actually hoping to see today. I did say to David, I want to see a warthog. Find me a warthog. But I spotted it first and he didn't, so that didn't work. But we managed to get the babies too. Wonderful. Look at them all. Emma, can you just repeat that question? I had my earpiece had slipped out of my ear. Paula is asking a question, which I will get right round to, if Emma can just repeat exactly what it was. Paula's asking at what age do piglets grow tusks? That's an interesting question because most mammals, including elephants, do have a small set of milk teeth just like us before their adult teeth come in. So I'm actually not sure exactly what age their tusks come through at. But that is a really good question. I will find out the answer for you and get back to you on that one, Paula, because most prey species out here have to be born ready to run, ready to defend themselves and ready to just flee the predators. So your antelope species are a perfect example. When they're born, we call it precocial, where they just hit the ground running. Within hours, they're able to stand up and move in order to keep up with their herd, to keep up with their mothers. So warthogs will be similar to that. And you can see that they are just little mini versions of their mother, so that they're just ready to walk when they're incredibly young. So I will find out the answer to that because it's a very good question, Paula. But for now, we're going to send you over to another cute animal in the form of Tlalamba.
Well, look at this silly cat. You can see that I'm not sure if she's a mini version of her mother, but I think more of a mini version of her brother, because as you can see, her tail is in the water. Why are you looking at your tail as though why is it wet? You silly cat, you can't put your tail in the water. That's not a clever place for a tail. You don't like water, remember? Now don't eat your own tail. She makes me laugh. She really is another story, this cat. Is your tail now wet, you silly girl? No, she's not a good listener, and she's also now trying to swat the water off her own tail, which is quite ridiculous in its own right. And what are you doing? Your tail is wet, and no wonder you're having to groom it. That's what happens when it's put in water. Silly girl. But at least she's facing us now, which is quite nice. That's very kind of her to have kind of looked in our direction. Yes, you are beautiful. She is such a poser. She's taken a lot of leaves out of, or leaf. Is it leaf or leaves out of Hosana's playbook? Elizabeth, does she have a scratch on her head? Elizabeth, I can't see if she has a scratch on her head, if I'm honest with you. And now that she's turned, I don't know. Whereabouts on her head, Elizabeth? Are you talking about maybe on the top of her head or near her ears? I can't see anything myself. It's not to say there isn't a scratch on her head. I mean, she does have sometimes. Maybe just a shadow is what Emma is saying to me. Bad makeup job. We blame James because James did makeup for Tlalamba yesterday for the TV show. So if the makeup's not good, it's James and David's fault, and so they're the ones to blame and the ones that need to be shouted at if she's got bad makeup. Always James, isn't it, Emma? I think James is going to kick us in the backside if we're not careful at some point. But she really is a clown. I mean, who sleeps with their tail in the water itself? Are you hot? Yes, Emma, you are going to be in trouble. And James is going to have a fury with you, and that's never a fun experience. I'll just hide away from him, although I suppose he's much closer to me than he is to Emma at the moment. All right. Now, I've been saying that all of Hosana's relatives have been out on show over the past few days and weeks, and one in particular that was a nice surprise was his niece, Kuchava, who made a brief appearance down at Chitwa.
Kuchava the dark-nosed leopardess made herself comfortable in nearby Chitwa. With her impala kill neatly stashed up a tree, Kuchava took some time to treat herself to a bit of pampering. Perfectly positioned, Kuchava enjoyed a drink after her manicure, never straying too far from her meal. However, it appears after a brief hiatus, the Djuma hyenas have returned, with ribbons stopping by to investigate if there were any potential scraps to be scavenged. With the dubious ongoing relationship between the hyenas and leopards of Djuma, it's no wonder that Kuchava remained close and cautious, keeping an eye on her kill for the rest of the day.
Well, wasn't that nice for her to make an appearance? And I was saying earlier that it seems like her cubs are still alive, given that she was calling yesterday for them. And I'm sure Lauren was so thrilled to have seen Kuchava during the course of the week. It was her first sighting, and I remember she came back and said she's beautiful. And, well, most of Tandy's offspring are. Tandy has produced some really pretty leopards, particularly with striking eyes. So little Kalamba does have striking eyes as well. I find her eyes quite light, much like Wabayiza and Bohuti and Kuchava and Tamba. Obviously, Tamba, I think, in my mind, had the most striking of them all. Wabayiza was also very, very pretty. And then, Kuchava's got nice eyes as well as, very similar actually to more towards sort of Tlalamba's kind of coloration than anything else. But Tlalamba does have a striking little look, and what I like about Tlalamba is she's actually got quite a dark coat like Tandy does. It's the kind of signature of Tandy's, is that her coat is quite a rich sort of orangey kind of caramel color, which is very, very pretty. It's always nice when you get dark colored leopards, and she's got nice big rosettes on her sort of back, and very, very pretty little cat. I think, well, to me anyway, and we know that I'm biased, and I don't think that there really are many ugly leopards in this world. I think they are the most magnificent creature, but this one in particular is very, very cute, and Kuchava as well. I have a soft spot for all of Tandy's offspring, given that Tandy is my favorite female, and so it's one of those things is when she has little cubs, it's always very cool, and especially to have seen how successful she's been. Now, Rima, you're saying how old are Kuchava's cubs? Well, no one's really 100% sure, but we think close to about 10 to 12 weeks, somewhere there, would be roughly where they are. I think they've only been seen once on the 10th of December, from what I can understand. And so that's kind of where what we kind of guessing. I mean, obviously we haven't seen them, so it's very tricky for us. Now, BK, can you go back to her tail for me? Because there's a really cool little marking on her tail. You'll see that there's a little bend on her tail like that, and if you just go back along her tail and just out a little bit, now right there, now you see it almost looks like a little paw pattern. So she's got the 4 little toes and then a paw pad that's kind of, so the toes would be facing to the left of your screen, and then the little pad at the back, right in the center there. It almost looks like a little kind of leopard footprint on her tail. It's not exact, but you can use your imagination a little bit, and so she's got her little pug mark on her tail. That could be something that we could use in the future if you ever have just a glimpse of the top of her tail dangling out of something or something like that. It would help us maybe to be able to identify her. I'll tell you one thing, though. She's a clever little leopard, because somehow she has figured out how to find the only shade that there is. The rest of us are being absolutely obliterated by the sun, while she lounges very carefully in the nice cool sand in the shade. So I'm a bit envious of her at the moment, and her tail in the water. Anyway, in the meantime, though, we're going to send you up to David. I hope he's not as hot as what we are. Kenya generally isn't as hot, but I'm hoping, like I say, he's more comfortable than it is here in the sun.
Well, Tristan, I'm very convinced that Tlalamba coming maybe end of 2019, she'll be a force to reckon with in Djuma Private Game Reserve, as she grows. If she is going to take over the mother, the mother should be worried that, her daughter will be taking over. Now, I said earlier, as it may start to cool off, we might be lucky to see some cats. Well, the luck came, and not as I would wanted it, because we got 2 male lions here, and they seem to be very, very snoozy, simply because it is still very warm, and they're lying under that, what I'd call the agardenia tree. I'm yet to find out who these 2 males are, and my first guess would be there have been 2 nomadic males of lions that have been sneaking in this particular area. Now, this area is always occupied by some girls that we call the Mogoro females, and the Mogoro girls are always 3, but there's no particular coalition of males that have been hanging around here. What I'm guessing, these 2 males want to take an advantage and, occupy this area, because as it is quite vacant. I'm looking at Scarface and his brothers, who are a little bit far from here, and the Kichwa males are also on another edge from where we are. So ideally, there's one particular small area that is vacant, and maybe these boys might be taking over that area. We'll see how things will unfold, because once Scarface is another coalition of males. He got 3 brothers, knows that there are other males who want to take over. Who knows what will happen? Well, every time I talk of lions, I've always spoken of my favorite breed of lions here in the Mara. That is called the sausage tree breed. And when you see the sausage tree breed bring down some huge, dangerous prey, you will give them respect, as I do. In the lion kingdom, it is the responsibility of the lionesses to provide food for their family, and the sausage tree pride lionesses have mastered this art. Surrounding a lone male buffalo, these lionesses skillfully cornered the highly dangerous animal and leaving it with little room for escape. At times, buffalo herds are able to rescue their own during a hunt, but on this occasion, nothing could be done. With a fierce kiss of death, this lion pride had itself dinner and food for the next few days. Welcome back live, and I'm sure you will agree with me that what those girls can do, not many other prides of lions would do. Ideally, to bring down such a big prey like a buffalo, and more so of a male like the one you saw there, you need the muscles of these 2 lions that you see here. So you'll always require a male lion to come in, flex his muscles, and help the females to kill or take down a male buffalo. But the sausage tree pride females are just wonderful. They have a class, they have an art, they know how to lay their strategy, and I would say 9 out of 10 times I've seen them hunting a buffalo. They'll always win, and they'll always bring it down. Now, if these 2 boys are the ones that I'm thinking of, they brought down a buffalo the other day, and for 2 males of this size, I'm not surprised, because I'm sure they have the muscles to do that. Well, I just want to hope they're going to rise up and shine and maybe stretch and turn around. And as I just sit here patiently waiting to see if they'll do that, we'll take you back to South Africa to Jamie Patterson.
The party, the celebrations continue. It's getting a little rowdy in here and really out of control. I mean, we're going to have to give Seb a bit of a rest after this, because, of course, he's now got a sugar high and he's running around like a child. He's really not. So it's party in the tent. It is too hot for that, especially because I've had to close one of the windows. There is a gentle, gradual build-up of what promises to be an absolutely massive thunderstorm. That's what we should have had. We should have had an ice cream cake. Emma wants to know if Seb got into the ice cream cake. An ice cream cake would have gone down really well right now, because before the storm is the heat and the humidity and the build-up, which is great, because that's how summer should be out here, and that, of course, will mean plenty of rain. Hosana and Shungile were drought children. They were summer children. They were drought children. they experienced the worst of the dry season, which for them actually meant that they had the best possible start in life, oddly enough, because, of course, for the various predators, it was a really, really jolly good time for them. There was plenty to eat, access to food was pretty easy, and they're not too bothered about access to water, so they really only know things, or only know this place during a time when it is incredibly dry. Now, 2 years ago, almost exactly to the day, just before Karula disappeared, the two of them were playing around shortly after their first birthday. Oh, it was such a pleasure spending time with those cats. It was, of course, before we had our full infrared setup, and they, at this stage, probably hadn't realized that Karula was not coming back to them, and they were just doing what they'd done their entire lives, which was irritate each other, pounce and play, and work on those skills. There you can really see the size difference between Hosana and Shongile. My music said that the emotions are running riot, I know, especially because they are so carefree and spirited right now in this particular moment, and we of course know what they were going to go through in the future. Leaping and pouncing on each other. I wonder, we've often spoken about this, I wonder whether or not a leopard cub that actually has a sibling has a better developmental background. You know, we don't know. There's no way to answer that question. Hlalamba, of course, has grown up as an only cat, where Hosana had Shongile around him all his life. And I remember at the time speculating as to whether or not it's better for a leopard cub to have mom's sole undivided attention, or whether it's not actually a blessing to have a sibling, a companion to play with, to hone those hunting skills, to practice fighting with, because of course in the future that is something that young Hosana will have to do. As much as we would like to keep him bundled up safe and sound, tucked away in the safety of wherever he happens to be, the truth is that at some point Hosana is going to have to face a challenge. Probably not yet though. And I'm hoping that his itchy feet at the moment are just a temporary failure on our part to track him down, or he's just going for a little wander around the neighborhood, see what's out there. Like all young people, whether they are male or female, like all young people, he really will have a burning desire to go off in search of other things. Nyala and Simon want to know, because he has been restless, whether or not I think he is dispersing, whether he's going for a little walkie, and perhaps a walkie that doesn't bring him back to Djuma for a while, possibly ever. I don't know. I really don't. He's 3 years old. It is the right age for him to be taking a little wander off in search of new and exciting opportunities and females to mate with, and it'll take him a little while to get there. He won't be ready until he's about 4 years old, maybe even 5, to defend a territory. No. I'm going to hedge my bets here. I'm going to hedge my bets and say no, I think Hosana's going to be back. Perhaps it's wishful thinking, but I don't see why he wouldn't want to settle into this area. The territory is ready and waiting for him, and his dad's been moving more and more away. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky. Let's go and find out what Tristan thinks, because at least Hlalamba isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
We're still sitting with Hlalamba, and she's still watching birds. She's decided to go to the other side of the pan. And she's watching doves that are coming and going, cinnamon-breasted buntings. There's been some blue waxbills that have also come through. So there's been quite a few different birds that have been around, and those obviously are piquing her interest in massive amounts of ways. There's also quite a few insects and a lot of bright sunshine too. But essentially what she's doing is she's trying to position herself in the hope that a bird will come a little bit closer. But for her, it's not really going to happen. I mean, birds are clever. They can see a big cat sitting out in the open like she is now. She would need to have a little kind of reeded section like Hosana and Shongile used to use down at Twin Dams. They used to sit right next to the water there in that covered reeded section, and then when anything came close they would be able to kind of grab it. So anything like terrapins, monitor lizards, as Jamie was referring to earlier, and even Hosana at Chitwa Dam grabbed that Egyptian goose chick, and at Buffalo's Hook Dam as well. So anywhere where there's a little bit of kind of cover is much better for a leopard, and so she would probably be far better off if she lay on the other side of the dam wall and birds kind of came up unsuspectingly kind of towards the edge of the water. Now, we were talking about sort of hunting techniques and the ways that these different animals can hunt. And, well, Hosana this week tried valiantly to upgrade his hunting skills to a porky meal. But, well, let you see how it just went.
Seemingly dissatisfied with his healthy eating habits of late, Hosana made use of a nearby bush as he went in search for something more substantial to eat. After he was foiled by a nearby impala herd, it appeared that the little chief's stalking skills may require some fine-tuning. The spring quickly returned to his step as an adult warthog came out into the open. The warthog took the window of opportunity and disappeared into the thickets, leaving Hosana to sulk in the sand as darkness fell.
Well, shame poor Hosana. I mean, he'll get there eventually. I mean, a male leopard, it's one of their favorite things to go after is warthogs. And so in time, he'll learn the technique. And it's generally when they hunt warthogs in their burrows. And big warthogs like that are really reserved for the big males. So he's still got a bit of growing up to do before he can tackle one of those. And I think he probably thought about it a little bit and thought to himself, well, this is maybe not the best idea. But you can see little Tlalamba is in stalk mode once again. 2 laughing doves are coming down for water, and she's trying her very best to make herself as small as possible. But of course, she's right out in the open, like I was saying just now. And so as the little doves come down to drink, she's thinking to herself, well, if I burst through here, maybe I'll grab one. But I don't think she's going to be able to make up that ground to be able to grab them. What she's probably also hoping is that one of these doves makes an error and just flies a little bit too close to her, in which case she can then kind of launch and grab one. And I've seen leopards take birds before. It's quite something to watch when they do it. Shivambalana, funny enough, killed a emerald spotted wood dove once, which was quite insane. He was sitting on a termite mound having a bit of a sleep, and this emerald spotted wood dove, or a dove of some sort, came flying past. I think it was an emerald spotted wood dove. I try and remember these things. It was way back when, so my memory's a bit sketchy as to which dove it was. But anyway, a dove came right flying past, and with one paw he leapt up into the air and grabbed this dove mid-air with one paw and slammed it to the ground and ended up eating it. So, you know, they eventually get it right and figure it out. You can see she's looking longingly at the doves that have now flown away, who have gone to the safety of the trees. And I'm afraid, girl, this is not going to work for you very well. You're going to need to find a better spot than where you are right now. You're going to need to go to somewhere where there's a little bit more kind of reeded material that is going to be good for you to kind of launch an attack from. And this pan is far too open for that. Look at that. Oh, shame, my girl. Is it a tough life when you have to wait for Mom? It also doesn't help that she can't control her little twitchy tail too, because that little white twitchy tail keeps giving her away all the time, and she kind of keeps getting herself into a little bit of a spotted bother, because every time she lifts that tail, the birds will scatter in 40 directions, which is not really ideal. Also, she's made her tail all dirty because she got it wet, and she's now putting it in the sand, so it's going to be caked in all kinds of horrible stuff at some point. And she'll just groom it out, I suppose. Right, now you can see that she's resting now, waiting for the next bird to come, and so we'll stay with her while she does. But in the meantime, let's send you across to David, who's got apparently some chubby lions, which I suppose runs along the theme of Hosana resting in the shade.
Well, if I would be asked what I would want to be in my next life, from my experience here this afternoon, I would want to be a lion. For 2 reasons. Number one, if you look at the belly of that particular close lion to us, he is definitely full. And number 2, just sleep and don't think anything, and without any worries, because lions got very few enemies, I would say, if any. I've been here now for 30 minutes, and apart from twitching the ears and the tail once in a while, and maybe that fast body movement, I would say, that's sort of, substantial, there have been Yeah, you see the other one there. That's the brother. Well, Ravinda, good question. Have I seen any lions living in the Rocky Hills? What I have seen them do, Ravinda, is going there to feed. If they need to get close to food, if they need to get close to prey, and that's where the prey is, it's quite a challenge for the lions to walk through the rocks, and especially when it comes to hunting. It's a very tough terrain, and Ravinda, what would happen is we have seen once in a while females going to give birth. If those rocks are huge, they got very nice like crevices or they open nicely, we have seen when some females disappear and we first see them, we'll always see their small cubs on top of those rocks. One, of course, the lionesses can tell their cubs will blend in very well with those rocks. But just to see them going on top of rocks is always quite unusual. I do not remember the last time I saw Ravinda lions, not even these two males here, going on top of rocks. Why don't you want to wake up? Please wake up, rise and shine. Walk around. It's not as hot as it was before. And as I said earlier, I'm trying to imagine these two boys. Good question. We're talking about what males are these, and you got me in the middle of a sentence where I was saying, my guess is these two males are nomadic males, and they must have come from Serengeti National Park. And if I am right, one of them got half a tail, and the other one got full tail. And my guess is at the moment they want to occupy a vacant area that is not fully controlled by the Scarface and his brothers and by the Quichua males. So there's an area of about, what I would say, 20-30 kilometers square. There are no particular males that reign or roam in this area. If anything, this is the territory for the Mogoro females. The Mogoro females are always 3 girls. So the last I saw these two males was last year, around October, September, end of September, early October. And they were trying to sneak in, and there's another coalition of males that is called Kipuli with his 2 other youngsters, and Kipuli dealt with one in the morning, fought it, got it out of this area, and in the afternoon the other male was mating with another female called Butternut that belongs to another pride that's called Owino pride, and Kipuli just watched them mating for like a whole 3 hours, and around 5 o'clock Kipuli woke up. And Kipuli was like, game on and bring it on. And Kipuli also dealt with that other male. And it was one of the most dramatic fights I've ever seen of male lions. And they left. Well, they are back. Yes, I think I was correct. You have seen that tail. It is the half tail, but not from the Quichua males. These are the nomadic males I was talking about. I wasn't very sure because initially I had not seen the tail. And of course, you can see the genitalia of the other one and the testicles there, which also justifies that's another male and not a female. And this is the coalition, I think, will be taking over this area, Chris. Well, I do not know when and how, but of course, if they're going to stick here a bit longer, we might soon be giving them a name. Definitely, this one will not be half a tail because we got half tail in the Quichua males. We need to give them a name. Bungay, do you have an idea? I mean, do you think we can coin our names, me and you, Bungay? Well, Bungay is telling me tonight, during dinner time when he is eating is when his thoughts or when he thinks better. So we'll wait. But as far as I'm concerned, these two males, 3 days ago, I saw them eating a buffalo. So chances are now they might be slowly making inroads and they might be here for a long time. Well, I'll give them a couple of minutes before I move on, and I'm not sure what Lauren is looking for, but she is on the search.
Well, I haven't found what I was looking for. We have been everywhere, all up the Mwati and the drainage line where Hosanna was last seen. We really, really hoped we could pull this off just for the Safari Lives and nothing. So that's where we've been the whole time, bashing through the bush and driving up the dry riverbeds. So it hasn't been an easy task, but there's just no sign of him. I wonder if he has crossed over into an area and that's exactly why we haven't seen him. Who knows? But anyway, talking of animals that are difficult to find, we have had a fantastic week with wild dogs. I think 4 or 5 of us has had the most amazing encounters with these animals. So let's go and take a look at what the Investic in Bali Breakaway Pack got up to.
The Investic in Bali Breakaway Pack burst onto the scene this past week, making their way across our neighbouring areas of Chitwa and Torchwood. In typical wild dog fashion, they were on the move. However, their usual fast footing was put to the test with some recreational rock climbing. They continued on, galloping into the next day in search for a meal on the run. However, with little success, some of the young ones took to a little light digging in order to find a new chew toy for the road.
The wild dogs definitely do keep you on your toes, that is for sure. My sighting with these dogs was at Chitwa. Both Sebastian and I decided to go and check out the dam to see if anything exciting was happening. And we were on the dam wall, which happens to be quite narrow. And Seb said all of a sudden, "Why are these impala running dogs?" Really loud. I got the fright of my life, and it involved a lot of reversing and a lot of stress, shall we say, to actually go find these dogs. But what a fantastic experience. They seem to be roaming around on Juma a lot these days. We even had them yesterday. So back to who is not roaming around is Mr. Hosanna. I could not have possibly have tried any harder today. I just wonder exactly when he is going to appear again. Oh, we do have a cute little dwarf mongoose. Let's go and say hello to little dwarfy here. It's not so easy to actually get these guys. Hello, do you know where Hosanna is? He looks terrified even just at the word. Now, believe it or not, we were just talking of the wild dogs, and mongoose and wild dogs actually have a lot more in common than you would think they do. Their social structure is very comparable in that they live together in, well, dogs live in packs, of course. Mongoose not so much in packs, but they live together in family groups, and they operate with a breeding pair, an alpha breeding pair, where only that pair, the male and the female, will actually breed. The others will not, and the others will assist the breeding pair, and they will help babysit, they will help look after the young. So it's a very structured society, and they both happen to be incredibly similar. So the sun is starting to set, which is probably why this mongoose is on the lookout. But while we enjoy this lovely view, let's send you back across to Jamie.
I am having a good time. I'm having a really good time. You know, there's something to be said for structured and social societies. Things like dwarf mongoose and wild dogs and lions even are almost always guaranteed of company within their group. They're at least guaranteed a little bit of affection, usually, from some of the other members of their social grouping. Same cannot be said for leopards, of course. Leopards are solitary creatures. They don't particularly like the company of other leopards, and in fact, in the times that you see them together, especially where you're talking about adult leopards, they don't particularly enjoy the company of other leopards. You see them mating, and I've always noticed that they seem to be quite resentful of the company that they are forced to put up with over the course of those 5 days. The same, of course, is not true of leopard siblings, and we're going to take one last trip down memory lane to enjoy a bit more of Shungile and Hosanna together. Here we go. So again, just around the disappearance of their mother, Hosanna on the left, Shungile on the right, and really starting to look like adult leopards at this point. It was such a pity, because they were just starting to develop their individual personalities. Hosanna's comfortable, almost laid-back nature, definitely very laid-back. Shungile's curious and very, 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 very entertaining and curious and cautious young leopard. Sky, you say that this is one of your favorite moments, or this is one of your favorite sightings of the two jumping from tree to tree. I know. We really did get spoilt with the two of them. I don't think there's many people who've had the same insight into the wonderful world of two growing leopards as we've had. Still playing with each other, still irritating each other, as siblings are meant to do. And often I remember Hosana backing down from Shongile. I really, really do. It seemed to be quite a common occurrence. He always seemed to be almost a little bit afraid of her, which was ridiculous because she was just so much larger than he was, or smaller than he was, I mean. And yet he was always dominated by her, which just goes to show the force and the strength of Shongile's fierce personality. My favorite sightings, actually, a lot of them involve Hosana and Shongile together, and a lot of them are actually Shongile based, looking back on it now, because I've been thinking about their time together, and I really felt a connection specifically towards Shongile when she was playing with the impala carcasses or the Dacre carcasses that Mom brought home, when she was watching us on foot. Those moments really built a connection. But I think my favorite Hosana moment was just before, one of my favorite Hosana moments, let's be careful here, was just before I went to the Mara. And so was not long after that clip of them jumping through the trees. It was about maybe a month and a bit after that I went out in search of Hosana on foot. And I actually said goodbye to him because I was very worried that when I came back from the Mara, he wouldn't be here still. I went out on bushwalk and we found him on a termite mound, and I said goodbye to him. And I didn't know where Shongile was. I never got to do the same for her, but I said bye, and that was my last walk before I went off to the Masai Mara. Imagine my joy when I discovered that he had in fact returned to Djuma after his little stroll across to Londolozi. And we all know, logically, that as a young male leopard, there's a very good chance that he's going to disperse. It is. The tale of Hosana and Shongile is a true underdog story, as Emma's just pointed out. Especially for Shongile, and unfortunately in this particular case, the underdog didn't really win. But definitely for both of them to have been left as young as they were and to have survived in the way that they did, Shongile would have survived absolutely, I believe, if Tundi hadn't moved into the area. And that's where Hosana was so lucky, because his dad was still around to keep out any invading territorial males. But not even the honeymoon, the beautiful halcyon days of having Hosana around would eventually come to an end. I'm hoping it's not yet, though, and I'm hoping it never happens. Fortunately, as I said, little Princess Tlalamba shouldn't be going anywhere anytime soon. Hopefully, she establishes herself as a female on Djuma for years to come.
Well, let's hope not, Jamie. Let's hope that Hosana's days are not coming to an end and that he will reign for much longer in this area and that we will be able to keep watching him. Now, I've listening to Jamie talking about Shongile and stuff, and it's a bittersweet thing because Seb and myself are probably two of the last people to have seen that cat, as far as we know. We don't know who's seen her since, if she is alive, if she isn't alive, but the last known sighting, we were the last car to leave that sighting with her in the tree and Tundi below. And so, it's a kind of horrible thing to think about if she is gone, that there wasn't some way to kind of warn her that day. And it started off so nicely with the two of them lying next to each other, and we haven't seen the two together in so long. And it really was kind of, in some ways, very, 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 very kind of... Right, well, we'll get into this just now because we've got a lapel knot issue. So while we fix this, let's send you up to the Mara with David.
Well, we are deciding to watch the sun go down, and this is one very special moment in my life. And I think the best thing for me is just to shut up for a couple of seconds and we watch the sunset. That's a tree called the Boskia tree, or the shepherd tree. And that's the western horizon from the Mara Triangle in Kenya. As the sun is giving us that golden moment to end my Monday on a very lovely note. Remember, we have always requested for questions and comments. Hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. And every day I see a sunset. Isney, very good for your comment. You say this is so beautiful. Thank you so very much. I mean, it can't be better. And I do not know what tomorrow's week or by the end of the week whether I'll continue watching these gorgeous moments. Truly magnificent. Slowly and surely, sun going down. A couple of more seconds to go. Thank you very much for your great comment, and I think the bottom line is wow. And this is what all Safari Live is about, especially the day we bring you our best actions. This is just going to bless the day, and it'll be like the icing on the cake with all the Safari Live actions of the past week. Truly cherry on the cake, Bungay says. Bungay is the cameraman with me today. Well, I can't believe that sun has gone down, but either way, let's find out what Talamba is doing with Tristan.
Well, we've hopefully fixed our sound issues and everything is okay, but I was saying basically that it was a horrible kind of thing to know that you watched little Shongile getting kind of beaten up by her older sister, and that it was a very traumatic sighting in many ways. And so part of me just wishes that I don't see that with Hosana, and that we're not one of the last to have seen him too, because we saw him that morning when last week Tuesday. So I'm hoping that he comes back. I think he will come back. I have positive vibes, I'm pretty sure, and that he's going to appear fairly shortly somewhere here. But it does make you miss Shongile when you kind of think about these sightings, and it's never a nice thing when you think about kind of what happened and how she kind of just disappeared, and that we don't know what happened to her in the end. We really don't have any answers, and part of me wishes I could have stayed there all night to have figured out what exactly took place. Did she get out of there? Was she badly injured? Was she fine? What is the kind of direction she took? All of those kind of answers would have been so nice to have had. And, Jamie and I often talk about the fact that wouldn't it just be so magical if one day we drove along and there would be Shongile kind of moving out and kind of just coming onto the road in front of us. It just would be the most fantastic thing. And so, with Kalamba, there's a lot of kind of Shongile in her. It reminds me of Shongile, and I'm hoping that we're not going to see a similar issue with her. Hopefully she'll kind of prosper and continue Karula lineage a little bit further, because obviously Tandi's getting older, and Kuchava, well, she's on her own mission. We don't see her as much, and so I'm hoping Kalamba becomes a part of this area and becomes, continuation of Karula's kind of lineage and her legacy. Anyway, it's been so pleasant to spend the afternoon with her, and obviously Jamie's been reminiscing lots about Hosana and Shongile, and so let's send you back to her so she can have one last word about our special little prince.
It looks as though Tristan's had a truly lovely afternoon. We've had a lovely celebration here in the tent. They really are the saddest things in the world. I don't know what it is about them, but there's something just really sad about them. I know one other person who was the last one to see, as far as we know, Shongile, and he's behind the camera, because Seb was actually on camera with Tristan the day that Tandi and Shongile had their terrible, terrible fight that ultimately may not have resulted in, but certainly was a precursor to Shongile's disappearance. She was not seen again after that. The fate of her little brother, on the other hand, was one that we have, of course, followed with great glee at times, great concern at others, and fortunately he managed to bring a happy end to the tale of Karula's fifth and final litter. And by the time the end of 2017 approached, he was already standing on his own four paws. As I said, Hosanna does not lack in skill when it comes to the hunting department. He is quite a gifted little hunter, and as he stalks through the grass, we've seen that hunting prowess in action. If not live, certainly we've arrived at the final result. It is absolutely the case that there is plenty of hope for Hosanna's future, especially given the interesting, peculiar relationship that he has with his father. It might be a bit of a snarly one, but he has been reliant upon Tingana for a considerable period of time. I think that occasionally he managed to sneak a bite of Tingana's meals, and of course has since returned the favour, thus keeping Tingana in power for perhaps a longer period than he might otherwise and naturally have. And as a result, that in turn has secured Hosanna's safety. Michael says that he has enjoyed this trip down memory lane. It has been really very special, hasn't it? I've enjoyed it as well. It makes me a little bit sad, a little bit nostalgic, but it has been a truly special Safari Lives indeed. Happy birthday, Hosanna, wherever you happen to be. We don't know where you are, but we look forward to seeing you. And thus this concludes the 34th episode of Safari Lives. Perhaps in a year's time, he'll be here to celebrate his 4th birthday. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you for the Sunrise Safari. I hope you had fun.